Hi there everyone, I'm Nil Roy from 21st Century Corporation, and from this video we'll be starting our Python course. Now before proceeding any further, make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to never miss an update from us. So before getting into Python, let's have a slight intro on what is a language and a programming language. Now what is a language first? A language is a way of expressing your thoughts or feelings to others, but at the same time keep in mind you and the person you're talking to knows a common language. Now let me ask an interesting question. Can we talk to a computer? The answer is yes. Okay, but how can we talk to a computer? Because we know a computer understands a language which only includes zeros and ones. So that language is called a binary language. A binary language is a language which has only two characters, which is zeros and ones, which you can also say as on or off, like that. Now we humans know a language which is our own language, which is English or French or German, anything. So how can there be communication? So as told earlier, there is a mediator. Okay, programming language has a mediator. In that way we can understand or communicate with a computer. So what is a programming language first? A programming language is a language in which you instruct a computer to do a particular task. Now let's take an example of a calculator. Okay, this is an example of what are the tasks, how you assign tasks, like that. So what are the tasks of a calculator? The task of a calculator is to take inputs. Suppose you enter 6, then you enter 8, then you enter an operator which is plus, minus, anything. So these are the tasks of input. Done. Now comes the task for checking. What will check? Whether this operator is matching with this, that, whether it's addition, subtraction, multiplication, anything. That's done. Now comes about calculating. If it is addition, then add. If it is subtraction, then subtract, like that. Now after this, the most important part is to give the result, because if you don't give the result, the user will think it has a flaw, okay, or it has some errors. So to make it error free, you have to give the result. Now there are three types of programming language. The first one is a low level language, the second one is a middle level language, and the third one is a high level language. Now what is a low level language? A low level language is a type of programming language which contains some basic instructions which are recognized by the computer. So if you instruct a computer by these instructions, the computer will understand without a mediator. Now what is the disadvantages? These are cryptic and not human readable. Now before going to middle level language, let's learn high level language first, because if we learn first this, then it will be very easy to understand this middle level language or MLL. Now what is a high level language? A high level language is a programming language designed to be human readable and simplify computer language. So this is its advantage. High level source code contains easy to read syntax, another advantage, and is later converted to a low level language, another feature. Now this low level language can be recognized and run by a specific CPU. These two are the features, and most common programming languages are considered high level languages, such as Java, C, C++, oh no, not C, C++, Java, Python, etc. Now middle level language. A middle level language or a medium level language, MLL, is a computer programming language that interacts with the abstraction layer of a computer system. Now what it does, it serves as a bridge between the raw hardware and programming layer of a computer system. Now let's take the example of a C. It's very good for interacting with the hardware as well as the software. Let's take the example of Windows. If you want to interact with the hardware, Windows uses C as well as it uses C as well as C++ for interacting with the hardware as well as software. So this is the advantages of middle level language as well as high level language. Like C++ is a high level language, so it is used to interact with the hardware as well as C. Now these are the languages you can learn. The first one is Python, which we will be learning now. So Python will be learning now. Then comes PHP. Now what is PHP? It is a programming language used in the server side. where you can create dynamic websites. Now companies like Facebook are using PHP to make its website. So PHP is used for making websites, only websites. Now Java is a general purpose programming language used for making softwares, apps, games. It can also be used to make websites, and that those websites are dynamic. So Java is an all-purpose programming language. Also, you can make dynamic websites in Python as well as games, softwares, apps, anything. Now, I don't think I have to tell anything about HTML, because HTML as well as CSS is used to make a website, where HTML is the skeleton of a website, while CSS is used to add some designs to a website. Now, JavaScript is used to add some functionality to a website. So HTML is a skeleton, JavaScript is used to add some functionality. Now C++, as I've mentioned, is used in the hardware as well as in the software to interact. So it serves as a bridge between the hardware as well as the software. It can also be used to create apps, games for Xbox or Windows based games or applications. So yeah, you can make games and apps in C++. Python is a high-level, interpreted, interactive, and object-oriented scripting language. Now we have talked what is a high-level language. Interpreted. Now what is interpreted? A language which is translated to a machine-level language or a low-level language line by line. So if a high-level language is translated to a low-level language line by line, is called an interpreted language. Interactive. Now why it is interactive? Because if you open a CMD in Windows or a bash shell in macOS or Linux, you can if you write Python, you can test Python, or you can test Python code or run Python code. Anything you can do in a CMD or terminal in macOS and Linux or Windows. This is why it's interactive. Now object oriented we will be discussing in the later videos. Now scripting language, you can write scripts in Python, that's why it's a scripting language. Then it's object oriented, so it uses English keywords frequently. So in most languages like Java, C, C++, there will be some punctuations more than this English keywords, while in Python there is less punctuations and more English keywords. That's why it's human readable. Now while other languages have more syntactical constructions, like you have to give a semicolon or you have to give braces, otherwise it will throw some errors, but Python have less or tends to have a few of them. That's why it has less syntactical construction. This is a disadvantage of this Java, C, C++, and advantage of Python. Now I've discussed what is interpreted. It is processed at runtime and you do not need to compile. This is an advantage, which means the errors are shown line by line, which makes debugging super easy. Advantage. Now interactive, I've said this is a feature of Python where you can open a CMD or a bash shell, CMD in Windows or a bash shell in macOS and Linux, and if you run Python or type Python or Python 3, and there will be an interactive command prompt opening where you can run Python, test Python, debug Python, anything you can do in this CMD or bash shell on Linux, bash shell in macOS and Linux. So this is a feature. Now a difference between compiler and interpreter. Now what is a compiler? It converts all the source code to the machine code at once, which means the errors will be shown at once. So it becomes a bit confusing that what error is coming first, why this error is coming. It will be very difficult. So this makes debugging very hard. It becomes very hard to debug when using a compiler. Now in other case, interpreter converts all the source code to machine code line by line, which means the interpreter shows one error at a time. So it becomes super easy to debug when using an interpreter. Now this person is Guido van Rossum, who is the father of Python, has created it in the late 80s and early 90s in this institute, which is National Research Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science. Now if you are wondering why the name Python, the reason is that in this time, or at this time, there was a famous movie which was Monty Python's Flying Circus. Now he was inspired, means Guido van Rossum was inspired of this movie or show, and hence give the name Python. but when he gave, many of the programmers have accepted the name because it was very fun. It was something cryptic, something like very fun to know that it's Python, a name of a snake, but it came from another name which is Monty Python. So it was very fun to use this name Python. Okay, it's not that dangerous snake, that Python, that venom snake. Don't think it's Monty Python Flying Circus. From there the name Python came. Now Python is derived from ABC, Modular 3, C, C++, Algol 68, Smalltalk, and a Unix shell. And there are other languages like Java, many things. Now Python is copyrighted like Perl, so it's under GNU, General Public License, GPL. Python is maintained by a code development team in National Research Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science, and this institute is located in Netherlands. But Guido van Rossum, who is working at Google, still holds a vital role in directing its progress. Now, what are the features of Python? It's easy to learn. Why? Because it has few keywords, simple structure, and clearly defined syntax. Now, easy to maintain because it's fairly easy to maintain because its code is available in GitHub and it has few keywords, simple structure, and a clearly defined syntax. Now, a broad standard library. Now, if you have gone to pypi.org, you will find that there are 65,000 plus libraries or packages, whatever. And so it's Python's bulk, which is I think more than Java. So Python's bulk of libraries is very portable as well and compatible, means if you run this library in macOS, it will run. Now, interactive mode. Python has support for interactive testing and debugging of code. I have mentioned this earlier, so I have mentioned. Then comes portability. Now Python can run on a wide variety of hardware platforms, such as on any motherboard it will run, and it provides same interface on all platforms. Suppose you run a Python program in Windows and you run the same program in macOS or Linux, it would give the same interface. This is why it's highly portable. Now, extendable. You can add some low-level modules to the Python interpreter. Now, what this modules does is it helps the programmers to add or to customize their tools to make them more efficient. Now, what this databases does? Now, if you heard of databases, they all store your data. Now, Python provides some interfaces to all these major commercial databases. Now, as it provides some interfaces, so what is an interface? So, if a user can interact with the computer, so you need an interface. Now, there are two types of interface. One is CUI, which is command user interface, or character user interface, and the other one is GUI, which is graphical user interface. That's why, as it provides some interfaces to major commercial databases, it must be having a GUI, which is graphical user interface. So we can say that Python supports GUI applications, which is cross-platform. Now, if you create a GUI in Windows, you can run on macOS and Linux. Now, scalability, because Python provides a better structure and support for large programs than shell scripting. If you write some shell commands, it provides better structure and support for large programs than programs which run on shell. So it's highly scalable. So if you like this video, hit the like button and press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to never miss an update from us.